experience has enabled her to become an expert in business development, leadership, operational excellence, marketing, and even technology. What don't you do? She also possesses an expertise in training and professional development. When she's not helping her clients to succeed, Michelle loves spending time with her family. Her sons Jack, who is 6, and Oliver, 3 years old. Help keep her laughing, and I'm sure busy. I'm sure. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to push that. Also, she is fortunate to be married to her best friend, Dennis. Please give a rowdy, last welcome to the main stage to Michelle. So today, ladies, I chose to speak to you about resilience. And why did I pick that topic? I do a lot of speaking on a lot of different topics, but for me, resilience is what I see over and over from my fellow women. But the challenge with that is that my fellow women do not see it in themselves. How many of you here have powered through when times are hard? I was going to say, every hand should be up. How many of you here have pushed down those emotions when things hit the fan? I'm like a pro at it. I think anyone who was, my friend Krista, who was doing that activity the other day with me when we were like, compliment each other, and I was ran in the opposite direction. I was like, oh, good things. Oh, no. So we have to deal with those emotions. So today I'm going to take you through a series of different topics. You're going to feel a lot of things, and that's okay because we're in a safe space. But we are going to talk about straight up the resilience of women. We're going to talk about a lifeline to sanity because God knows we could all use one of those, right? And I'm going to formally give you permission to crumble, ladies. We're going to talk about what that means, and then I'm going to give you some tools to help you process and release all the head trash that's going on for you and all of the situations that women come up against every single day. So this quote that you see on the screen, and just for everybody's sake, I know as dots, we love to take pictures of the screen. Have at it. But just know I'm going to give you a way to literally get this whole entire presentation in your inbox at the end of the thing, in case you don't want to be taking pictures. But this quote here, when I was searching for something about resilience and what actually perfectly described the women around me that I saw go through things on the daily, this quote came up. You are not born with a fixed amount of resilience. Like a muscle, you can build it up, draw on it when you need it. And in the process, you'll figure out who you really are, and you just might become the very best version of yourself. How many of you have come out of the fire a better person? Amen. So just to start, I want to give a little bit of background about myself. So like Melissa mentioned, Nancy mentioned, I'm the mother of 2 beautiful boys, age 3 and age 6. And when I saw this quote, it was the first time I really fully understood what happens when you go through bad thing after bad thing after bad thing. And I know, as I've heard from other women, Rhea Eunice, my lovely girlfriend, where she is in this room, different women Zoe, when you were up here talking about the challenges you had gone through. So when I'm about to tell you my story, it's not just for me. It's not with the purpose of me sitting up on this stage saying, look at the amazing things I've done while I've gone through hell. I'm saying it because I know every single one of you in this audience has done the same damn thing. So my kind of, as I like to call it, my P90X muscle building of craziness, in building those muscles started about 5.5 years ago. Typical day. At the time I was working a corporate job, heading up the PayPal Europe email operations team. I was a little bit overworked, a little bit stressed, and I had a 1.5-year-old. And this is my first son. And on that day in particular, which is seared into my memory, he had eaten his scrambled eggs at the table like any other day, you know, just being a typical little kid. And he walked over to me and he said, "Mama, up." How many of you parents have heard that? It's like the typical, something that you look forward to hearing. But on this day, what I didn't know is my little one had an intuition that something was coming. So when he said to me, "Mama, up," and I scooped him up, he seized in my arms. When I say something that's seared into my brain, that is something you do not let go of. And that started for us the first leg of the marathon. Specialist after specialist. Luckily, I am from Massachusetts, and I am in a place where Boston Children's Hospital is, and there are amazing specialists that come, because he didn't just have neurological issues. He had been aspirating thin lipids into his lungs his entire life, and we had no idea. And he was vomiting, and it was just this laundry list. It's kind of like when it rains, it pours. Okay? So we went through that, and all the while I was working a corporate job, because I don't know who can relate here, but I was still in the mindset of I will do it all, have it all, be it all. I can work a high-powered corporate job, and be on a plane to Europe and a plane to the West Coast and still take care of my child while doing conference calls on the way to doctor's appointments in Boston. That's cool, right? But then the second one came. And I like to joke around and say, he was like, "Yeah, Mom, hold my beer. You thought he was bad? Wait." And I always thank God for the drugs I was on the day after he was born. Because the day after my second one was born, the doctor walked into the hospital room and said to me, "We have to talk." And I was like, bring it on, buddy. There's a lot in my life I've seen thus far, and you can't really surprise me too much. And then he told me, "Your son has heart issues." And he rattled off a whole laundry list of medical words, and I didn't know what the hell they were. And thus began the second leg of that marathon I was running. My little guy, who I believe to this day was really put in my path to have me do what you see me doing here. Because as I was taking care of his medical stuff, because the heart issues weren't it, because that couldn't be enough. He also had things wrong with his swallowing. He would turn blue. I would end up in a hospital literally every other week. There's a hospital in Massachusetts I haven't seen and know where the cafeteria is. But you know what? Through all of that, I was constantly looking for the redeeming factors of those situations. Through the lonely nights in the hotel rooms and the hospital rooms, which, by the way, whoever created a double infant hospital room should be... Because one cries, they all cry, right? So my little one also came out with a compromised immune system. So we had to pull him from daycare. And in the midst of this, I lost my job. And in the midst of this, shit was just hitting the fan left, right, and backwards. And I know all of you have been there when you have that floor moment. Mine happened to me on my kitchen floor. Sometimes it happens on the bathroom floor, whichever one you prefer to be on. But at that moment, when I lost my job, I hit my knees. One, because the rug came out, and two, because that's the only place to go in those moments, right, ladies? And I just said, "Universe, what the beep, 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 a lot of swears, do you want from me in this situation?" And basically, that's how my company, Create Honesty, came out. Because in that moment on the floor, I was tested, and I was asked, and I was said, "Find yourself again. Find yourself again and use these children," who I do believe that nobody is given a child a parent, a person in their path that they're not supposed to have, to teach you to come to the next level. So throughout the years, when I started my company, I also was diagnosed with celiac disease. I had a surgery. Like, it's just the typical stuff as women. We take a licking and keep on ticking. Is that the expression? Whatever. You know what I mean. So I came on the stage today with this specific topic to be able to look at all of you and say, I know that you're dealing with the same stuff. Maybe not as compounded. Maybe it doesn't look the same. Maybe it doesn't feel the same. But I see so many women on the daily who are dealing with kids who have issues, parents who are elderly, divorce, infertility, and they're building amazing things in this world. So if there's anything throughout this presentation that you can help, that can help you, I truly feel blessed to be up on this stage for you, because that's what I'm here for, to serve you. So I want to talk a little bit about what a lifeline to sanity looks like and feels like. There are times in your life when you are going to have a storm swirling all around you. Head to toe, you feel like you're in the eye of one, right? Anyone relate? It just comes from the right, comes from the left, comes from the top, comes from the bottom, and it keeps hitting you over and over and over again. And what my godsend is that I learned that in order to stay grounded, I truly needed to figure out what my lifeline to sanity was. And ladies, what that is it's something that feels true to you. It's something that will not change. When you go through the fire, you will come out the other end, and you will be changed. But there are certain things that we know from we're this big up to this big that do not change about ourselves. And that could be a characteristic, or that could be something that keeps you grounded. For me, those of you who know me, I'm a singer. It's what I do when I'm not doing this. It's something that's in my heart. So for my children, what I did all the time was I was constantly singing You Are My Sunshine, which to this day I'm sorry to stop. My kids are like, stop singing that song. I'm like, but don't take my sunshine away. They're like, shut up, Mom. But to me, that's something that feels true. Whether it's journaling, whether it's writing, whether it's exercise, whether it's just sitting quietly, what is that something that feels true to you? And what is the thing that links directly to your soul? So no matter what changes, no matter what point you are at in your journey, when you are on the ground, what is going to help pick you up? And I always like to note that it's not necessarily a person. It can be. People can support your dot sisters. I have many in this room who supported me through that. Your husband, your wife, your significant others, whatever it may be. They can absolutely support you. But in my experience, having them be the things that tether you to the ground when things are swirling around you, maybe not such a good idea. Because those people that are around you are processing the situations as much as you are, and they're processing their own situations. So what that means is they're having their own emotions behind it. They're going through their own version of what you are dealing with. So having them be the one who you lean on and you depend on to keep you grounded may or may not work. And then I always tell people, whatever that lifeline is, keep it small and manageable, because who's like started an exercise regime and then the shit hits the fan and then you're like, oh, I guess I'm not running. It's too big of a challenge. It doesn't have to be something huge. It just needs to be something so that it doesn't own you. Early in the chaos with my kids, my husband and I actually had a conversation about how we wanted all of this chaos and all of this hell, for lack of a better term, to affect us as people. And we actually had a conscious decision, shout out to my husband for this, actually being open to that conversation, a conscious decision to not let it define us. Because you are not your situations, ladies. You are not the bad things that happen to you. You are the strength that comes behind it. And you are everything else and so much more. So make sure whatever you're putting in place to keep you tethered and to have as your lifeline to sanity does just that. It reminds you of who you were before and who you will still be after, whatever that storm is that's hit you. And then when in doubt, I always tell clients, coaching clients and myself, to speak in facts. If I had catastrophized every single thing that's happened in my life, as I think I probably did some, and I'm sure we all often do, you go to the worst case scenario. Who does it? Yeah. You're like, oh, maybe it'll kind of, maybe rain a little bit. And you go right to it's going to be a friggin' nor'easter. No pun intended for Massachusetts. It's going to be a nor'easter, it's going to snow, and I'm going to be snowed in, I'm going to lose electricity, everything's going to go wrong, it's going to be awful. I've done it like a million times. And I've learned it does not serve me. I can spiral out, but then I need to catch myself because I've got shit to do. And so do all of you. Amazing things to do. So when you catch yourself kind of spiraling and catastrophizing, or looking at it and saying, oh my God, the sky is falling! It may feel like that, but speak in facts. With my children, I would literally say, what are the facts of the situation? How bad are things? Give me the facts, Doc. Run it down. What are the facts of the things we need to conquer today? What are the non-negotiables? But the minute I start to spiral, game off. Permission to crumble. So anyone here familiar with Glennon Doyle Melton? Somebody's got to be. Yeah. If you're not, Google her. Amazing technology. But this quote by her, our pain is not the poison, the lies about the pain are. When I first read this quote, I was like, I wanted to put some, I was like, the lies, what lies? I'm completely with it. No. How many times have we as women said, when someone says, how are you? You say, I'm fine. No, really, how are you doing? I'm good, I got this, as you're running out the door to your next thing. So it's not the situation itself that may impact you. It's the lies that you're telling the people around you. Are you checking in with yourself? Are you admitting to yourself, damn, this shit's hard? Or are you sitting there and saying, nope, I'm good, and then it's exploding a week later when you're really not good? So next up, I want to talk about what permission to crumble means. Because I love this space that we're in. I look forward to celebration just for the sheer fact, and my monthly DOT meetings, because I know I can let it all down. It doesn't matter what it is. It's a judgment-free zone. You can cry, you can laugh, you can do whatever you damn well please. Within reason. But there are people out there who want to tell you when it's okay to crumble, how to crumble, and everything in between. So number one, you are entitled. Let me say that again. Entitled to your crumbling. There are no emotions that are off limits, ladies. Well, maybe don't kill anyone, but there are no emotions that are off limits for you. How many times are we as women told to suck it up, buttercup? Put that smile on your face. Do your hair, get out the door. But what we forget is crumbling and these quote-unquote negative emotions are part of our well-being. We are just as entitled to those as we are joy, happiness, all those positive ones. And also, ladies, it can happen whenever and however you would like it to. How many people have been told an appropriate way of dealing with stress? Right? Don't get too big. Don't get too upset. You're being dramatic. But it can happen whenever and however you want. I actually work with my kids on hitting pillows, and that's random. But, we have this anger inside of us sometimes as human beings. And we have this slew of emotional energy that comes into us. And you have to put it somewhere, or else it comes out of your body as dis-ease. If anyone's a Louise Hay fan in this room, Google her too. It will manifest in your body somewhere. And there are no right or wrong ways to deal with a difficult situation, despite what people may say to you. And we'll talk about that in a minute too. There's only your way. You want to cry, cry. You want to hit a pillow, hit a pillow. You want to eat a gallon of Ben & Jerry's, have at it, ladies. My big thing is buffalo chicken pizza with like double and triple blue cheese, but to each his own. And also, one of the things that I always like to talk about, the next couple slides are some of my favorites, because you need to be picky with the company you keep during challenging times. And I always like to say, plan ahead and create your team. We're big comic book fans in our house, so it's like the Avengers, basically. I bring in my therapist, I bring in my acupuncturist, I bring in my girlfriends, I bring in, the appropriate people for the scenario. So in the next slides, we're going to talk about some of the people that may be coming into your life while you're going through a tough time. And I want you to try to stay as much as possible neutral when I'm going through these. Because when I say that we've all taken on one of these personas at one time or another, we have. There's no right or wrong thing. We all come to the table with the situations that we have gone through. So the first person that you may come in contact with when you're dealing with a challenging situation is the mover. The person who pressures you to move through the pain of the situation yesterday. Regardless of whether you are ready or not, they are more uncomfortable by your pain than you are sometimes. They're like, are you done yet? Are you done yet? Are you better? Are you better? Are you better? Because I need you, and I need you to be better. I know some of you are laughing out there because you know what I'm talking about. Some of you may have relatives of that sort. Some of you may have girlfriends of that sort. Some of you may have done it yourself, because I know I have. Because when we're dealing with our own stuff, somebody else's can feel really uncomfortable. And when especially, I love to say, check on your strong friends. Because when your strong friends go through that, or go through something tough, you're like, whoa, you're not supposed to be this, you're supposed to be this. And we want to be like, get better now. And you push them, and you move them right along before they're ready. And the next one here is the fixer, which us as women, we can be fixers, but no offense, men and #mandots in the room, but men like to fix things. We come to them with a problem, and they're like, let me fix it right now. And we're like, no, I just want you to listen. But they press a solution on you via comparison. When this happened to me, this is what I do, and this is what you're going to do, and it's all going to be good. Anyone? And that's regardless of whether or not that's a correct match for you. Because as we said before, your crumble is unique to you. The way that you're dealing with any sort of pain or any sort of challenge or even any sort of joy in your life is unique to you. The next person is the journalist. This one makes me a little angry. But they always want to be the first person to know so they can report back to that group. They are the girl in the know, or the boy in the know. They're at your side taking notes on everything that's going on, and sometimes that might be a good thing. Maybe they're reporting back to a group to give you what you need, but sometimes it's almost like an ego thing. Like, I want to feel like the one in the know so that I can then look like the one in the know. But that's not what you need then. Do you need help? Do you need your dog sisters to step up in a situation? Perhaps. But the intention behind the act is what matters. And we've all done this at some point too. You're like, oh, and it's, good intentions, but masked a little bit. And the next one we have is the victim. Yeah, they turn that stressful situation somehow magically around to be about them. And they're angry that you didn't tell them that you had a shitty time first. I had this happen to me so many times. I would literally be like up to my elbows in changing diapers, hospital trips, building a business, whatever else, and I would have someone be angry at me that I didn't tell them something went wrong yesterday. As women, there are some days that we are just trying to effing survive. So this one makes me angry. And again, we've all been it at some point, maybe not intentionally, but when someone is in the throes of chaos, when someone's heart is breaking, when someone's just having a plain old bad day, saying something like, "You didn't tell me about it," is going to make it worse. That's like a guarantee. So the last one here is really what, when I look out into this audience, is what I see. And I see it because I know a lot of you. And I see it because I know that you would go to bat for your sister in a heartbeat. And I see it because I've had sisters in this room walk beside me through the pain without the judgment. And they respected my process. They've picked me off the floor when I needed it. They've given me wine when I needed it, or vodka, or whatever the stronger of any of those are. They've been there without judgment. Because, I'm sorry, we are our worst enemies when it comes to this lady, and nobody's going to beat ourselves up that worse than ourselves in our head, right? So for you ladies, I want you to look to your right, look to your left, and find those warriors in your life. The ones that approach you without the judgment. The ones that don't bring their shit, for lack of a better term, because there isn't a better one for it, to the table when you are in crisis. And sometimes you may not be able to find that person. Sometimes that only person, because somebody can't relate quite well enough to you or can't get there quick enough, may be you. So I'd like to pause for a minute and do a little activity to give you a little extra support with this. So in the pink bags, all of you have on your table, whoever's the table lead or just one person, whoever it is, there are little note cards. They look like this in your bags. I would like you to take about 5 minutes, and I would like you to be your own warrior, ladies. I would like you to write a note to yourself. A note of encouragement for those days when nobody else quite understands. And I would also like you to flip the envelope over and address it to yourself. Address, zip code, all that nice stuff, because in the next year, I will be mailing them to you. You won't know when. Hell, I don't even know when yet, but I'm going to mail it to you. And they're going to show up in your mailbox. And I'm a big believer of, whatever you need in your path at that moment goes into your path. And I'm hoping that my note shows up in your mailbox when you need it. So take 5 minutes just to do that, ladies.
What are we writing in it?
You are writing a note to yourself. When there is a hard time, you are being your own warrior.
About
a note
how
of
strong
encouragement
you are.
for yourself. And then you on the envelope are putting your name and address for it to be mailed. Ladies, when you're done 2 more minutes. All right, 1 minute. Thank you, ladies.
There's something subconscious about that.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, majority of people finishing up. Okay. If you're still writing, that's fine too. Just want to keep on time, or else we'll be getting my flag down from back there in the red cards and the green cards and things like that. So the quote on here I absolutely love too. I'm sure you've already read it. It's up on the gigantic screen. But it's, I walk beside you, wherever you are. And I'm going to cry. I thought I'd cry earlier. I walk beside you wherever you are, whatever it takes, no matter how far. And I have to say, I've given this talk before, but not quite in this format. And I honestly, when I put that quote on, all I think about is the dots. Because we're like the epitome of that in a lot of levels. I remember when I was first diagnosed with celiac disease, I was like barely functioning. Anyone who's ever gone through a diagnosis like that, it's a reactive one. They like make you sicker before they tell you to get better. And I'm looking at you, Marrow Miner. Probably doesn't even, I don't know if you know this story. I can't remember if I told you it. But I wasn't showing up at a doc meeting. I was like, F that, I'm going to bed. And she texted me and said, you are getting your butt to a meeting. And I said, you're already in mine. She said, you're getting your butt to a meeting. And I showed up. Wet hair, raggedy t-shirt, pants on, crying like a baby. And it didn't matter. There were women that I didn't even know yet in that chapter, in Jody Cummins' chapter, because that's where I started out, who were messaging me being like, are you okay? And I was still learning the dot way, and I was like, yeah? What is this? What is this dot thing where people actually care that I'm okay? But to me, there's really no better quote when I look at my journey as a dot than that. Because those women on the wall back there, these women at the table over here, and some of you other ones have walked beside me through it. And you've checked in. As I say, always check in on the strong ones. So the road to resilience. Before I start, I'd like to say that it looks like a really pretty graphic up here, but honestly, processing your emotional stuff, if it was that easy as a little circle, you'd all be like, not in therapy, right? I wouldn't need therapists. We wouldn't need anything if it was that, like, do this, then this, then this. But it's not, right? I had a good friend to me once say, when I was going through all this, she asked me, she's like, so what are you doing to kind of work through all this stuff? And I was like, what do you mean? I'm fine. And she was like, no, Michelle, you need to process your shit. That's what she said to me. She's like, you better sit with that. And I was like, that's too scary. But what I figured out is many of you are probably familiar, thank you, with the hero's journey, right? You get that call to service. You go through the fire. You're tested time and time again. And then you come out the other end to teach others. So from my experience, the next couple slides are what I'd really like to leave with you. So when I say process, like process your shit, what I mean is you need to resist the urge, the fight or flight response. When something bad happens, it's like a natural human thing. It keeps us safe as individuals. We want to run like hell, or we want to fight like hell. But at some point in time, You need to sit with it. It's gonna suck, not gonna lie. But when you sit with it, you have the ability to block out the noise. You have the ability to acknowledge it and say, whew, this is hard. Because how many of you in this room, someone said, oh, how are you holding up? That's really rough. And you're like, no, I got this. But you don't. Right? We just keep running. We're like, if I just keep moving fast, I'll just outrun it. And you will not. So you have to acknowledge what's going on with you. And you need to acknowledge the fact that it is impacting you. The minute you go, la 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 la, it's not touching me. I'm good. It's coming. And then establishing a mutual respect for the positive and the negative. So everything that I went through with my health, my kids' health, I was always infusing joy. I was finding those moments to outweigh the negative as much as I could. We stayed in the hospital, I think, Thanksgiving Eve into Thanksgiving. Children's Hospital has a floor-to-ceiling screen, kind of like they were putting the one out there, where they televised the Macy's Day Parade. You're damn right I was sitting there like, look at those floats. But I think sometimes as we get into that turmoil, we are not taking a moment to really find the joy, seek it out. Because in those joyful moments, you find a little bit of balance. Because that is life. You can't have one without the other. And you need to remove that victim mentality at some point. We will all have the woe is me's, but that's got to go at some point because you have stuff to do, amazing things to do. In recovering. So, has anyone ever gone through a bad breakup or a really bad situation and you're crying hysterically every single night? Like you wake up crying, you go to bed crying, like everything is awful. And then little by little, you see this in the grief process a lot, little by little, you stop crying. Little by little, you wake up and you go, oh, I can function today. Little by little, it hurts a little bit less. It's still there, because it's part of you now. But it's not as raw. And when you're recovering from something, you are able to identify the learnings that are gained in that. And you're able to see a little bit clearer how it can be applied to the different areas of your life. For me, always going through what I was going through, at first, if a mom came to me and she was like, or somebody came to me like, oh, I have a cold, I'd be like, really? You have a cold? Yeah, who didn't have a cold? I'd kill for a cold right now, not gonna lie. But that was when I was in the beginning, and there's that anger, and I knew damn well that was me, that wasn't them. Because I lost my compassion. I lost my ability to say, you know what, that's really hard and mean it. But as I started to recover and deal with the emotions of what I was going through, I could identify where to put it across the board. And your energy starts to rise at that point. You feel almost like a new person. It's like that phoenix rising from the ashes moment. And you get back into that normal rhythm of your life. Again, doesn't mean it's not still sitting there. But it feels a little easier. And you embrace being a student of life. As I think you wouldn't be sitting in this room if you were not the type of person who was always seeking out the better in life. You weren't always seeking out the knowledge. You weren't always seeking out a way to better yourself from the inside out. So this to me is a really valuable stage because you get to be that student. You get to examine all the crap that's inside of your head. And then next is releasing it, right? And again, I would love it if I knew I could do step 1, step 2, step 3, it's all gone. That'd be fabulous, right? But you come in and out of the phases. And you can move away from the negative situation when you start to release it, though. It's the distance. And you're applying the learning to different areas of your life. You're officially saying, let me pick up this tool and use it over here. And you almost become a master of it. And you begin to embrace being a teacher. It's that hero's journey. You've gone through that fire, and now you're back to tell other people that it's going to be okay, and not in a fixed way. I always put that. Please do not come back and be like, well, when I did this, it was da-da-da-da. That's not what I mean. You're taking those hard times that you've gone through and you're approaching others with empathy and compassion, as well as doing the same for yourselves. Because I know everybody in this room has dealt with something. And ever since I was little, and I have an interesting upbringing, that's a whole other talk, I've always known that somebody's mountain is another person's molehill and vice versa. So something that wrecks one person may not wreck another person. And it goes back to the original quote of those muscles, right? Some people can lift 10 pounds, some people can lift 5 pounds, some people can lift 100 pounds. But you can't compare the two ever. You can't say to yourself, well, I'm just dealing with this, but look at what she's dealing with. That's not how it works. Because it's an individualized journey. And this is kind of one of my favorite quotes as well, that you cannot recognize the good times if you haven't experienced the bad, ladies. You know, we're always looking for silver linings, I think the majority of us, maybe not in our darkest moments, but you almost have to. Because I think when you go through life, the bad's not going away. But the thing is we tend to eliminate the joy instead. We kind of accept it, instead of actively seeking out those joyous moments to balance the rest of the crap. So as we move forward, ladies, I do really want you to actively seek out the joy. Okay? When you step out of this room, no matter what's going on, whatever head trash is still up there, whatever may be happening in your life when you come out of this dot bubble, which we all know sucks when you come out of the bubble. I want you to start actively seeking out the joy to balance whatever you may have. And as I said, you can text whatever's up there so you can get all of this stuff, because I just threw a lot of information at you. So, and that is all I have today, ladies, and I thank you so much for holding space for me for this talk today. Thank you.